My name's Dave Arland. I'm from Carmel, Indiana, and we're here on a beautiful day at Cars and Coffee in Indianapolis at Cross Point. And it's so great to come here and to bring my toy, which is a 1963 Studebaker Avanti, the sort of Studebaker's answer to the Corvette, and they called it their prestige car at the very end of Studebaker. And it was sort of a Hail Mary pass, trying to get more people in the stores to buy Studebaker Larks and Studebaker Wagonaires, and a few people walked out the door with the Studebaker Avanti. The history of the Studebaker Avanti is that a new CEO came in. He was brought in by the board from McCulloch Supercharger. They had purchased that company, which some car aficionados may know the name McCulloch. And his job was to shut down auto production at Studebaker in South Bend, Indiana. So he got there and he found there were 8,000 people building cars. He said this is really a super powerhouse opportunity. He was a private pilot, and he said, you know, let's go out on a limb. Let's design a sports car, although they didn't call it a sports car, they called it a prestige car, that could bring people into stores. It would be something very different and unexpected from Studebaker. So he phoned up Raymond Loewy, the famous industrial designer, and got Raymond on the phone and said, would you come back? You've done work for Studebaker in the 1950s. It's now the early 60s. Would you come back and design us a special project, a custom prestige car? Loewy said, I'll come back with two things in mind. One, I'm going to only work on this for a month. And two, I'm only going to work in Palm Springs, California. I am not going to come back to South Bend, Indiana. So the new CEO, his name was Sherwood Egbert, agreed to those terms. Loewy hired 3 guys to come with him into a bungalow in Palm Springs. And in 1 month, they produced this beautiful car, at least the exterior of that car. And then Loewy brought that model to Studebaker's board and they approved it. And the team at Studebaker, much like the first Corvette, had only 1 year to make this a reality, because the CEO wanted the Avanti to be the star of the New York Auto Show in 1962. And it took a lot of work of a lot of engineers and people up in South Bend, but they made it a reality. And the Studebaker Avanti made its debut at the New York Auto Show in 1962. Unfortunately, it was not something that was going to last. They only made about 4,400 of these cars. And it was the sort of thing that in today's money would probably be about a $60,000 purchase. So it's not a cheap car. They were very high on safety and speed. So the supercharged version of the Avanti actually set 27 speed records at Bonneville. It was faster than the Corvette, and they sold it on safety. So you'll notice when you walk around the car, there's a padded roll bar for safety. This is the first American car to have disc brakes, again, for safety. It's got lots of features that women would enjoy. It's got even today, a lot of women walk up and they love the folding makeup mirror that's built into the passenger side. It's got a compartment in the rear seat where you can put your purse in the trunk from inside the car. I mean, just lots of features that you wouldn't think about having in a car in 1962, but they were part of the Studebaker Avanti. I think I found that the process of owning a classic vehicle is that the first thing you do is you see one at a car show like this and you're like, what the heck is that? You try to gather as much information as you can about it. I joined the Studebaker Drivers Club. I joined the Avanti Owners Association, which is a national group. There's an Indiana chapter. I bought the model of this car and I put it on my desk so that every day I would look and your brain kind of trains itself to, wow, that would be awesome to own. And honestly, the last step is I bought the hood ornament. And then I'm looking at the hood ornament, I'm looking at the model, and one day I got a call from a friend who repairs these vehicles, and he said, what are you doing this Saturday? I said, I don't really have plans. He says, you have plans, you're gonna drive an Avanti. So she was found in a Westfield, Indiana barn. She'd been stored there for about 20 years, had only been driven about 200 miles in 20 years. And as you see her today on the outside is pretty much as I found her, but we had to do a complete interior restoration to return her to the look of 1962. So it looks now as she would have looked when you drove her off the lot. And she was sold through a little dealer in Weirton, West Virginia. Studebaker had 2,000 dealers at this time, but they only made about 4,600 of these cars. So my guess is this is the only Avanti that little dealership ever saw. It took a couple of years to get under the hood, things tuned up correctly, because it really hadn't been driven in very much. And today it's just a joy to drive because you get a lot of these, and you get a lot of people going, what on earth is that? And that's what I love. I love being able to restore a car, and it's really important to me because it's part of Indiana's heritage. So this is a Hoosier-made car, built in South Bend, Indiana, and it's a great pleasure to show it here at Cars and Coffee.